Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Leadership Mondays with Sherry Wherry. I'm Sherry Wherry, and I'm so glad to have you here this evening and to be part of this discussion. Leadership Mondays is all about us learning to grow, heal, and to lead well. Well, tonight is actually part three of a series that we started with talking about the power of boundaries. And so let's do a quick recap of what was discussed in the previous sessions. So, first, we talked about understanding your needs and getting clear on your goals. Before you can create powerful boundaries, you have to understand who you are and what your needs are as well. And then from there, you can create goals, you can create boundaries, and then start to implement those goals and those boundaries. Then last week, we talked about choosing sustainability over temporary wins. And so, for you to be able to do that, your why must be rooted in who you are, not in what you produce. And it's important to make that distinction because when your why is rooted in what you produce, you're more susceptible to get in cycles of validation that are ultimately unstable. So tonight we are jumping into talking about when being misunderstood is a sign of success. Now, before we go into the discussion, definitely have to do a couple of disclaimers, right? And so, a few things that I want to say before we go into discussion is that tonight's session is not an endorsement of toxicity, or nor is it an endorsement of just showing up in ways that demonstrates that you have low emotional intelligence. And I'm being honest and direct. It is not meant to be disrespectful or to make you feel bad. But in order for us to grow, to lead well, we have to have real honest discussions. And the truth of the matter is that some of us are in different points of our journey, and it's totally okay, right? And so this topic really is for those who have done the work to show up in healthy ways in all areas of their lives. Now, this doesn't mean that you're perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. No one is perfect. If you find someone that is perfect, let me know so we can bottle that up. We can go and sell it for $1 billion a bottle, right? But on a serious note, no one is perfect, right? But it is important that we operate from a place of wholeness. And when you have taken the time to understand just your past and things that have happened to you and patterns that have developed in your life that were healthy and that were not healthy, and you go through the process of then undoing those things were unhealthy, then you start to operate from a place of wholeness. When you are not operating from a place of wholeness, you are not actually showing up as your best self. And you're not in the best position to be able to make decisions short term and long term that will ultimately work in your good. It's not saying it's completely impossible, but it is a little bit more challenging when you are not operating for a place of wholeness. So that may actually be one of our next topics in the next couple of weeks for our Leadership Mondays, with talking about what does that mean to operate from a place of wholeness. So again, if you're still in your process, that's totally okay. Just take notes of the things that we discussed and you can implement when you're further along in your journey. All right, so we are going to jump into three signs that being misunderstood is actually a sign of success. So the first sign is when those who are not assigned to your purpose and leadership reject you. When those who are not assigned to your purpose and leadership reject you. When you show up authentically and you have gone through the work in order to find your validation internally and not through external means, that means that you will discover that you are not meant to help or attract everyone. There are so many people in the world, billions of people in the world. There's no way that one person could be everybody's cup of tea, right? And so it's not a bad thing when you can't help or support everyone. You were not meant to be the answer to every single person's problem, right? And so it's important for you to get to the point again of knowing who you are, having that internal validation, because then you understand that people saying no to you are actually a good thing. The people who are assigned to your purpose and assigned to your leadership will say yes to you with no issues, no problems. Doesn't mean that things are going to be perfect, but it does mean that they recognize the connection, they recognize the alignment, and they're not going to try to fight against that. But for those who are not called to your solution, your way of doing life, who are not called to your leadership style, who are not called to the value that you bring to the world, they're going to say no to you. And it's a good thing. The problem comes in when people recognize that there is not alignment, whether it's you that's recognizing that there's not alignment or the other people who are recognizing alignment, but you still try to force it to work anyways. And when you try to force it to work, you end up causing unnecessary stress and frustration for everyone involved. And so being misunderstood, having some people who recognize that, hey, they're not aligned with what you're doing, it's a sign of success. That means that you are showing up in a ways that makes it very clear that their solution is with someone else. And this doesn't make people a bad thing. When you think about all the things that you can purchase, like there are tons of different makeup lines. There are tons of restaurants for people to go to. And just because people choose one over the other, there's tons of companies to work for, right? Just because a person makes one decision that you wouldn't make, it doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they have a different way that they're choosing to live their life, and that's okay. Now, if people, again, are being toxic or unhealthy, that's a whole nother conversation. But if people are just choosing something different because they want something different, like that's okay. Again, that doesn't make people bad. All right, so the second sign is when your level of excellence irritates complacency in others. The second sign that being misunderstood is actually a sign of success is when your level of excellence irritates complacency in others. You will see this manifested in, people saying things like you're doing too much or you're taking things too seriously or it's not that deep, but that's actually not the case. The difference in approaches just shows that, again, you all are on a different journey. And so when you have had experiences that showed you that there are more effective ways to do things, you're going to operate at a different level than people who have not had that same experience. When you look at the differences, even in how people demonstrate excellence, you can tell who has had exposure and who has not. When you have limited exposure, you think that there's only one solution to a problem, or you may think that there is a limited way of doing things, or you may think that it's impossible to solve the issue. But when you have had exposure and experience to a diverse way of showing up and doing life and being able to serve people and to provide leadership, then you recognize that there is actually more ways to be able to do things than what people who have not had that same level of exposure has. And so it's not about you then looking down on people because they've had less exposure, but maybe your way of doing things can then be an opportunity for them to be exposed to more and to greater. It's just like for people who have traveled internationally and those who have not, is that you can tell the difference for those who have traveled internationally and those who have not, in the way that they talk about, the way that they see the world, the way that they discuss politics, even just the way that they expect things to occur when they go on vacations in certain places, is that it becomes very obvious, again, that there may be a low level of exposure. And so when you see that there is a difference between the way that you show up when it comes to a level of excellence and that other people are more complacent, is that you don't want to then diminish the level of execution for you just because of the fact that most of the people around you or some of the people around you are not operating at that same level. You still want to show up fully as yourself and show up in a way where you are inviting people in to be able to learn from you if they're open to that. And again, they're a call to you, right? If they are in alignment with who you are and what you have to offer. But if not, it's just about, hoping that they find the opportunity to connect with someone else who can help them to grow and expand their level of thinking. And again, expose them to just a wider range of experiences. All right, so now let's talk about the final sign that being misunderstood could actually be a sign of success. The third sign is when past people, places, and things that are not aligned with your growth no longer feel comfortable for you and make you feel like you're locked inside a box. When past people, places, and things that are no longer aligned with your growth, they stop feeling comfortable and it makes you feel like you're locked in a box. Uh, the way that you know you're experiencing this sign is when people make comments like saying, "Oh, well, you've changed," or "You've forgotten where you've come from." Well, yeah, you have changed. If you have grown, if you have obtained greater exposure and experience and education and wisdom and insight, that should result in change. And so, if you were going to remain the same person prior to having all of those experiences, then that's not growth, right? Growth means something different. If you are still saying exactly the same, and you haven't moved in your way of thinking and in your way of operating, that means that you're stagnant. And stagnation has never been conducive for growth. So I want to encourage those of you all who may be in this place where you are experiencing being misunderstood. And first and foremost, I want to just give you some encouragement to just keep being you, keep showing up just as you are. Is that the world needs you as you are. The realms of influence that you have access to need you to authentically be you. And it is also important for you to then find circles, find communities, find groups of people who can pour into you. When you are in a position where you are consistently giving and pouring out to others, and then you add the complexity of then being misunderstood, is that it could be kind of lonely sometimes and be frustrating. And so I want to encourage you to find circles where people pour into you. While it is admirable to be of service to others, you don't need to be a martyr. You are just as important as everyone else that you think needs your help and needs your support. And so go out and find people who are even more experienced than you, who have more exposure than you do, who can pour into you, who can help you to continue to grow as well. Find places where people are on the same journey as you are, and they're in alignment with where you are now and also where you are going. People who are not going to be jealous of you or intimidated by you because of the fact that you are growing and changing and evolving. And so, if you don't have spaces like that, one of the places I'm broadcasting now is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has tons of opportunities for you to be able to connect with people and to find new people to be in relationship with and to network with. And so step out of your comfort zone and even go to events and find people online and things of those natures that you can connect to. For those of you who may know me on a personal level, you will probably be surprised to know that I have my shy moments. And that networking is definitely something that makes me so nervous. But for the past few months, I have been very intentional about stepping outside of my comfort zone and networking. And it has definitely been very beneficial. I've met some amazing people and have now been in places that are providing me opportunities to grow. And so it's worth stepping outside of your comfort zone. As a person who, again, gets so nervous with doing that, I can tell you it's definitely worth it. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable you get with, going out there and just meeting, even if you just have the attention just to meet one person. That's what I told myself when I first started doing a lot more just over the past few months. It's like, just make one introduction, talk to one person, Sherry. And now I talk to more than one person when I go to different things just for my own development. And so I want to thank you all just for your time, for listening in. You are welcome, as always, to drop any questions or comments or aha moments in the chat. If you have any, even if you're watching a replay, you can drop it in the chat and I will come back and respond. If you have any ideas or suggestions for things that you would like for me to cover, you can always send that to me as well. And if you would like more information about me and the services that I provide, you can check out my website at sherrywherry.com. So take care. Have an amazing day or an amazing weekend. or evening or weekend, whenever you are listening to this. And I look forward to seeing you all next week, which will be part 4 and the final installment of this series of talking about the power of boundaries. Our topic for next week is going to be how powerful no's can lead to life changing yeses. So, a discussion you definitely don't want to miss. All right, take care. I will talk to you soon. Bye.